Om Tatpurushaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Tandihi Prachodayat. Sarvamum Sivamayam. Hello everyone. Today let's dive into something both fascinating and fundamental. How to read your birth chart. Often when we watch YouTube videos or TV shows where astrologers discuss planetary transits, right? They explain the potential benefits and challenges everyone in the country might face over the next 18 months, a year, or even 2 years, depending on which planet transits from one house to another. But most of these conversations are like Greek and Latin. I strongly believe that this ancient art of astrology is something that we should all have at least a basic understanding so that we can better grasp of what's being discussed or conveyed. Whether you are new to astrology or just curious, by the end of this video, you will have a basic understanding of how to interpret your chart and either speak or at least understand the language of astrologers and the world of astrology. So that's the overall goal of this video. So let's get started, shall we? So what exactly is a birth chart? The birth chart, which is also referred to as Kundali Jadagam or a natal chart, it's a snapshot of the sky at the exact moment you were born. It maps out where each planet was, which zodiac sign they were in, and in which house they were positioned. Let's see an example, right? Imagine you are standing in the corner of a very busy marketplace, surrounded by shops. People are walking by, vehicles are passing, and the area is lively and chaotic. Now you take out your phone and snap a picture. In that photo, the shops will be captured, but the people entering or leaving the shops might not be in the frame, and the vehicles you see now have moved out of the view. The snapshot is just like your horoscope, capturing the specific moment in time, fixed and unchanging even as the world continues to move around it. So your birth chart is unique to you and serves as a blueprint of your personality, challenges and potentials. The next thing that we need to know is how to generate your birth chart. If you already have a birth chart prepared by an astrologer, you can use it as a reference. Please check with your parents. Most of our parents would have generated one. If you don't have one, don't worry. You can easily generate one online. There are a lot of websites that helps you to generate the birth chart. Alternatively, you can also use a mobile app. All you require for both the options is your date of birth, month, year and the time and place of birth. But if you don't have the correct time, right, there is a high probability that the predictions might go wrong. Your charts might be, drawn differently. There are different types of charts available. For now, to keep things simple, let us just look at two major chart types used in India. The first one is a South Indian chart type and the other one is a North Indian chart types. What you see on screen is an example of both these types. In the North Indian chart, the houses remain fixed and you read counterclockwise. In South Indian chart, the signs stay fixed and you read clockwise. So this is the only difference between these two. Start where the green dot is placed and follow the arrows to understand the sequence of flow. I have just marked them so that it will be easier for you to understand. But I think I'm starting to feel that this is getting a little complicated. So what you're seeing on screen might be a little advanced. It's a generated chart with a random date and time, but still, let's take a step back and start by understanding the basics, which are the 9 planets, 12 signs and 27 stars. Basics are very important, and what you're about to learn in the next few minutes are pure basic stuff. These are fundamentals of astrology. So first let's look at the planets, signs and stars. In Vedic astrology, the 9 planets, 12 signs and 27 stars, which are called as nakshatras, form the fundamental elements of a birth chart. So let's get ourselves introduced first to the 9 planets, which are also called as Navagrahas. First we have Sun, also known as Surya, Moon, Chandra, Mars, Mangala, Mercury, Buddha, Jupiter is Guru, Venus, Shukra, Saturn is Shani, Dragon head is Rahu, also known as the north node of the moon, Dragon tail called as Ketu, which is the south node of the moon. Now let's get to know the 12 zodiac signs, which are also called as Rashis. We start with Aries, which is Mesha and ruled by Mars. Taurus, Rishabha, ruled by Venus. Gemini, Midhuna, ruled by Mercury. Cancer, Kadaka ruled by moon, Leo, Simha ruled by sun, Virgo, Kanya ruled by Mercury, Libra, Tula ruled by Venus, Scorpio, Vrichaga ruled by Mars, Sagittarius, Danu ruled by Jupiter, Capricorn, Makara ruled by Saturn, Aquarius, Kumbha ruled by Saturn, Pisces, Meena ruled by Jupiter. As you can see, there are 12 signs. Each planet is allotted 2 houses except for the sun and the moon. Now let's move on. There are 27 nakshatras, the stars starting from Ashwini till Revati. The houses are fixed and the stars inside them are points which are also fixed, but the planet keeps moving. Remember the earlier marketplace example that I gave? So consider the street as the house and the shops as the stars and the people as the planets. So the streets and the shops are fixed, right? But people will come in and they'll purchase something and they'll move out. So similar to that, in a zodiac sign, the planets keep moving. All the planets keep moving forward except for Rahu and Ketu, which move anti-clockwise. So rest of the planets move clockwise, and imagine Rahu and Ketu like they are coming, if you're walking front, they are coming face to you. So that's how these planets work. Each planet influences the zodiac sign it resides in, and each sign is further subdivided into nakshatras, which provide a more detailed understanding of the individual's nature and destiny. In Vedic astrology, each planet is associated with certain nakshatra. The 27 nakshatras are further divided into groups, with each planet ruling over the set of 3 nakshatras. So here's how they are assigned. So the planetary rulership of nakshatras are like, first we'll start with dragon tail Ketu, south node of the moon, which owns Ashwini, Magha and Mula. So all these 3 stars are owned by Ketu. Next we have Venus, Shukra, which owns Bharani, Purva Palguni, Purva Ashada. And then we have Sun, Surya, who owns Kritika, Uttara Falguni and Uttara Ashada. And then they'll move on to Moon, which is also known as Chandra, owns Rohini, Hasta and Shravana. And then we have Mars, Mangala, which owns Mrigasirisha, Chitra and Dhanishta. And then we have Dragon Head, Rahu, which is the north node of the moon, which owns Ardra, Swati and Sadabsha. And then we have Jupiter, Guru, who owns Punarvasu, Vishaka and Purva Bhadrapada. Saturn, Shani, which owns Pushya, Anuradha, Uttara Bhadrapada. And finally we have Mercury, Buddha, who owns Asalesha, Jeshta and Revati. So these planetary rulership or the nakshatras add another layer of interpretation in astrology, which is like a little bit of detailed understanding is required. But for now, these influence the nature and the effects of the planets when they are placed in these specific nakshatras in a birth chart. So for now, let's keep our understanding till that. You might have heard astrologers mention that you are currently under, let's say you are in running a Rahu Mahadasha or Jupiter Mahadasha, right? So it is through the planetary rulership of nakshatras that we determine which dasha begins at the time of your birth. So it is very important to understand the above planetary rulerships over these nakshatras. Let's take an example. If your moon is positioned in Anuradha nakshatra, right, then your starting dasa at birth will be Saturn's dasa, and then it will follow the sequence. So after Saturn we'll have Mercury, and then we'll move on to Dragon Tail, which is Ketu, and then Venus Mahadasha and so on. So that the sequence remains the same, but which dasha starts is basically determined by the star on which the moon is positioned. Now let's look at the key components of a birth chart, right? Well, there are many important components. Indeed, your entire birth chart is significant as it represents your life, but we have to start somewhere, right? So let's focus on 3 key aspects that most people pay attention to. First is the sun sign. Your sun sign represents your core self, your identity and the essence of who you are. It is the zodiac sign that most people are familiar with. A strong sun will give you strength. Second is the moon sign. The moon sign reflects your emotional self, how you feel and respond to the world. It's your inner world, let's say it's your subconscious. A stable moon will give you a stable mind. And the last one is the rising sign, ascendant. The ascendant or the rising sign is a sign that was on the horizon at the moment of your birth. It represents how you appear to others and your general approach to life. ascendant is you, and if your ascendant is strong, you will overcome all the hurdles in life. I'll pass here since we have covered a lot of theory and I don't want to bore you any further. Let's dive into some practical aspects that will help you to start reading your chart. So what you see on screen is an example chart that I had generated. The first thing to read in any chart is the ascendant sign, because that's how I do it. In this example, Capricorn is the ascendant, hence we have marked it as ASC. This is the house number 1. The next house, Aquarius, is 2. If you continue to sequentially number them, then the 12th house would be Sagittarius. The birth chart is divided into 12 houses, each representing different areas of life. Let's say, for example, the first house denotes your self or identity. It's you, as I mentioned earlier. The second house is represented as the wealth and the family. Third, it means your communication, how you communicate with everybody, siblings. Fourth house denotes your mother, the house you live in, the vehicles you have. Fifth house, it represents your creativity, the children that are born to you. Sixth house represents your overall health, service, the work that you do. Seventh house denotes partnership, marriage, the nature of your spouse, and so on. Eighth house, it's all about transformation and the secrets. Everybody has secrets, right? So it is hidden in 8th house only. And the 9th house denotes your father and your higher learning, post-graduation, and all the other higher studies that you do are referred to the 9th house. 10th house is all about your career, your status. 11th house is your gain, financial gain, or things that you are more inclined towards to friendship. 12th house are losses and how will you sleep. So these are like very basic characteristics or significations of each of these houses. We also call them as bhavas. There are a lot more significations, commonly known as karakattvas, allotted for each of the houses we numbered. The next thing to see is where the Lord of the Ascendant is positioned. Since the example that we saw, Capricorn is owned by Saturn, we need to see in which house he is currently in. So in this example, Saturn is placed in Scorpio. Since we already number these houses, we shall read as the ascendant is sitting in the 11th house. So we saw that 11th house is also known as the house of gains. So we call them as Labhasthanam or house of profits. In this specific example, both house 1 and 2 is owned by Saturn only. Hence we can comfortably say that even the Lord of the second house is sitting in the 11th house. So second house is your income, which is turned into profits or labham. Let's see one more placement. 4th house is Aries and its Lord Mars is positioned in the 6th house, which is Gemini. So in this manner, we can keep reading which house Lord is placed in the which respective house, and the predictions for the same can be derived, which we'll try to cover it in a different video, right? The next thing to look is the Sun. So in this chart, the Sun is positioned in the house of Taurus. Sun for this chart is the Lord of 8th house and is positioned in the 5th house. So the final thing is the Moon, which also governs your mind. In this chart, the Moon is the Lord of the 7th house, which is positioned in the 11th house. One important thing to note here is Moon is very weak in Scorpio. So planets get more strength in specific house, which we call them as exalted, and they get weaker in specific house. We call that state as debilitated. So we can discuss this too at a later point in time. So let's just focus on fundamentals right now. Let's move on to planets and their meanings. So each planet in your chart represents different energies and influences. So where these planets are placed in your chart, which sign and house, so it will influence how these energies manifest in your life. I'll touch base on few properties of each of the planets. So Sun, Surya represents your core self, ego, vitality, and the essence of who you are. It governs your identity and your life purpose. Moon, Chandra, it reflects your emotions, instincts, subconscious mind, or how you feel, right? I mean, it governs your emotional needs and the inner world. Mercury, Buddha, it governs communication. So intellect, reasoning, how you process information. It influences your thoughts, speech, and decision making. So if somebody is very good in memorizing something or they remember things, it's because they have a strong Mercury. Venus, Shukra represents love, beauty, harmony, relationships, and your sense of aesthetics. It governs your values, pleasures, and how you relate to others. So somebody with strong Venus will look very attractive. Let's move on to Mars, Mangala. it drives your passion, the energy, assertiveness, and how you take action. It governs your drive, ambition, and how you perceive your goals. Jupiter Guru, it represents growth, expansion, wisdom, and higher learning. It governs your beliefs, philosophy, and sense of optimism. Jupiter is also the Karaka for children. Shani, Saturn, it represents discipline, responsibility, structure, the challenges you face, all the hurdles that you face is because of, Lord Saturn. So it governs your work ethic, perseverance, and how you deal with limitations. Somebody who is working very hard, right? He's got a strong Saturn and who's very loyal, and so Saturn's qualities are into that person. Rahu, also known as the dragon head, it represents obsession, desires, unconventional paths, and material success. It governs your ambitions and the areas of life where you are driven to grow. Ketu, the dragon tail, so detachment, spirituality, past life experiences, and inner knowledge. So somebody who has got strong Ketu will be like, they'll be like too quiet, but they'll have a lot of knowledge within them. It governs the areas of life where you might experience a sense of loss or need for release. So each planet's influence on your chart depends on its position in the signs and houses, as well as the aspects it forms within the other planets. So we have not dealt with aspects here, but just to give you a sense, let's say for example, Saturn is positioned in Scorpio, and a planet from Taurus aspects it, so that will have an influence on the Saturn. So this combination provides a comprehensive picture of your personality, life path, and your potential challenges. Now that you understand the basics, let's start with your chart. Start with the moon, the sun, and the rising signs to get a general sense of person's personality and life approach. Then look at the houses to see which areas of life are most influenced by the planets. Let's say there are houses on which we'll have planets, and there are houses in which you'll have no planets at all. I hope this video has helped you to understand how to read your birth chart. I have not gone and dwelled deep into certain areas. I know this is very primal. For those who are already into astrology, they know that, I have not even scratched the surface. So there is so much to explore in astrology. What you have seen is not even the tip of the iceberg. So if you feel this video was useful, please share it with your circle, because knowledge grows by sharing. So stay curious, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, happy chart reading.